Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to my channel. And I'm a bit late on this, but I wanted to respond to the Bill Maher controversy and his commentary, criticism for comic fans. If you are an adult and dare to follow comics or think that they are profound. And the gist of this response is that Bill Maher is objectively wrong. He is factually inaccurate. He is simply wrong. It's not even a matter of an opinion. He's wrong. He's one of these comedians who is a political comedian. That's fine, whatever. But then as soon as the Bush era hit, a lot of these comedians and celebs suddenly wanted to assert that they were qualified and had the credentials to be serious cultural commentators. And they simply don't. As much as Bill Maher tries to play off of this intellectual air with his show and whatnot. And he still plays with comedy, obviously, but he very much tries to push this persona that he is this studied, well-balanced intellectual voice in our culture. And then he goes and says silly things like this. Now, it's not surprising that a stand-up comedian said something douchey about comic books or about any kind of level of culture, whatever. But he doubles down on it and he tries to, again, use this pseudo-intellectual air to add some sort of validity to it. And he's wrong. Let's start with just a couple of things because people have gone through his entire message and combed it pretty thoroughly. But I just wanted to point out two things. As a literature professor and as somebody who I've made comic books my academic career. I mean, I study, speak, teach, present on superheroes as our cultural mythology. And I am far from the only one. There are psychologists, there are literary professors, there are people from all different disciplines who treat the subject as thus. And wonderful graphic novels, wonderful comic runs have made it into literary canon. It's not even a question about that anymore. He's objectively wrong, and it doesn't take long at all to do the research and find this out. But he's doubling down, and instead of giving reasons or evidence or anything like that, he just asserts it in a more dramatic way or passionate way, and he plays it to his canned laugh track, and then that makes him sound more credible. Well, that's just simple logical fallacies that he's spewing out of his mouth here. Comics are profound. They are profound. I know people, even well-meaning people, sit back sometimes and say, oh, they're just whatever. They're just entertainment. No, they are a cultural mythology. Mythology is never just entertainment. It has resonances culturally and psychologically. That's a thing. Deal with it. The second, just objectively wrong thing he said, just completely like, you spend 2 minutes on Google before opening your mouth. When he's responding to Marvel's message to him, Marvel said that you have a right to your opinion, that comics are childish and unsophisticated. Many said the same thing about Dickens, Steinbeck, Melville, and even Shakespeare. To which Bill Maher replied, no, they didn't. And he gets a big laugh. And he's arguing that no one ever said that about those authors. Yes, they did, Bill. That's just a matter of history. Look it up. When Moby Dick came out, Melville was known for writing these swashbuckling captivity narratives like Typee. That's what people expected of him. Now, some critics saw the merit in Moby Dick right away and expounded upon the virtues of that. But a lot of them, in fact, the general consensus, especially in America, was that this book was a real dud. He had really missed his mark and he needed to go back to his seafaring adventures like Typee and whatnot. They thought it was childish and unsophisticated, Bill. That's history. You can't just wave that away with a ironic tone of voice. That's just, do some research. Dickens, he was in a lot of ways the James Patterson of his day in terms of popularity, and that did not jive well with a lot of the literary types. Again, do a bit of research. It's just such a head scratcher that somebody can be this wrong and yet this bold about it. He said something stupid, whether it was planned or not, and it might have been planned just for the publicity, just for the shock value. He comes across like, oh, I didn't know people would react this way, but yeah, you did. I mean, you're probably struggling for some attention and views and ratings, and you say something like this for the attention. Maybe that's the case. Maybe it's not. Maybe you simply said something stupid, but you own up to it after that. But oh, no. Bill Maher can't do that because Bill Maher is this high soaring intellect and biting, ironic sense of humor, and he can never can never be wrong. Well, he was wrong. These things that you're saying are simply not true. It's just not even a matter of opinion. Does he have a right to his opinion, as Marvel says? Sure he does. Anybody has a right to be wrong, but he's just making a bigger and bigger ass of himself as he doubles down on these silly things. So, like I said, a lot of people have responded to this and really combed through everything he said with a finer tooth comb. I do think it's very amusing that he, in the end of his speech, says, go read some James Baldwin or go read this or that guy. Actually, Sweetcast did a wonderful video response to this where he really picked apart some of the authors that Maher wants you to go read. And you want to talk about a matter of conjecture or a matter of debate as to who makes it into literary canon. Certainly some of those names are all about controversy. So it just bugs me. It gets under my skin when you have this is bullying. This is bullying 101. This is somebody who doesn't have the facts. They don't have the logical evidence. So they bully you into believing them. And they do so with this sort of ironic humor, which is a subtle manipulation. You're not cool unless you agree with me. Are really over the top assertions about his side of the argument so that you won't bother to go check up on the facts. And sadly, a lot of people out there are intellectually lazy and won't do the research unless they're invested in the topic. But it doesn't take long to find the holes in his argument. And it's a real pain in the ass because it's just a example of the larger picture that's going on in culture with the SJW poison that runs around in our society right now. It's in the comic book genre and the comic book media and community as well. And it's that self-righteousness. It's that of course I'm right. I have to be right. I am on the side of the angels and all of my opinions are pristine and people who disagree with me are evil. They're either evil or they're stupid. That's the incredibly immature worldview that a lot of these people have. And if you want to talk about maturity, if you want to talk about growing up, then you need to learn how nuanced of a place this world is. And there's no such thing as these political good guys versus these political bad guys. And these are the people on the wrong side of history and they're arguing for this, and this in their comics. And these are the good guys and they're towing the prepackaged line. It just boggles my mind how people can buy into this. People who seem otherwise so intelligent. You know, I work in the academic world and I spent a long time there and I meet a lot of people who are incredibly intelligent and incredibly well educated and trained. And yet when it comes to certain topics, when it comes to this political topic or when it comes to a conversation about this political figure, they just launch into this incredibly obvious false binary. They just can't help themselves. I don't know what sort of deep-rooted insecurity or fear drives this kind of thing. But I guess it has to be that if you accept that the world is a nuanced place and that you can't simply hide behind these people who think like you and they're the good guys and everybody else is the bad guys, if you have to accept that the world's more nuanced than that, then you can't just paint yourself as the good guy and you have to accept that you yourself are nuanced and that some of your views are probably flawed and that some of them will have to be changed. Some of them, of course, the core of who you are and the things you believe, that'll remain true, but you always have work on yourself to do. And I think that's at the real core, to bring it back around, that's at the real core of what's going on with Bill Maher here. He is insecure to the point in which he can never, ever admit that he's wrong. He made a mistake. He said things that were simply factually inaccurate, like I said. And how does he respond to the criticism of that? By doubling down and saying even more things that are factually inaccurate. If you dare disagree with him, then you're an idiot. He's sorry that you're alive. I mean, this is like schoolyard bullying, like 101. This is the most, again, who's mature here, Bill? Who's mature? It's just insane what the world's come to. But anyway, I'm done with that. Wanted to respond with my own unique angle and perspective on that. I'll be back later with more comic reviews and more information about Tales from the Stacks. Stay tuned, and until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the fun and profound hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.